It's because Kosovo has been neglected by the Economist. So I want to write a piece for the Economist, and there's been a reason for that. It's not just Kosovo was neglected. The whole of the Western Balkans was neglected in a sense because since 2022, Ukraine has basically sucked up all the kind of space and energy and finances and stuff. But now my editors are going, what's happening in the Balkans? Can I tell us what's going on? So last week I did an interview with Eddie Rama, and now I'm here. You had an election in February of this year, and then you'd failed to form a government, even form a parliament for most of the year. So what happened? Why was this?
Well, in the big framework of things, Kosovo is still an unfinished conflict with Serbia, and that dictates a lot of politics inside. We've had the Banjska attack 2 years ago, in which a paramilitary unit wanted to start an insurrection that would somehow isolate the northern part of the country and get it either inside Serbia or get it closer to Serbia. So it was a Russian-type incursion of little green men at the time. So that was thwarted thanks to a great part Western support, intelligence and KFOR, etc. On the internal side, we've had a revolutionary moment in which a young movement, the Vetëvendosje movement, got 51% of the vote some years ago. It disrupted politics as usual. And now we are in an evolutionary mode in which this is, the pendulum is coming to the center, or trying to get to the center, in which the revolutionary moment needs to adapt to these realities, to the present realities. And that means trying to create conditions for coalition rule, basically, in the future.
So why was it not possible to form a coalition in the last year?
Well, it seems that there's a lot of grievances between the parties, distrust. So there simply wasn't the chemistry that would lead to it.
So it was really personal issues rather than kind of ideological, or
it might have been ideological as well. I mean, as with any revolutionary moment, it brings out emotions, and now emotions have to stabilize in the society within all parties and project their interests and project how best they can advance their own political interests and the interests of the country.
Okay, but if it was a revolutionary moment, then Vetëvendosje ruled alone for several years. Well, What did this revolutionary moment produce?
Well, it created a climate of trust in institutions, in the sense that you don't see corruption as associated with power, as something normal associated with power. So there's dramatically less corruption in the society than it existed before. And that raised trust in governance, as such, a governance of clean hands. It also dealt with a security crisis in a very determined fashion. And therefore, we now have a much better security situation in the north than ever, which are conditions for a better political situation. That's on the positive side. You have Kosovo's image has changed for the better in the first years. Of course, with the security problems, there's been some skepticism, especially in the West, of the actions of this government in the North. But overall, there's a better perception of Kosovo than before.
Better perception of Kosovo
than before, in the indicators of rule of law and the indicators of government, in other indicators, human rights, etc.
Well, they're not in terms of journalism and freedom of media.
They are not, and that's a very strange evaluation, because in the latest evaluations, Kosovo was,
We're talking about Reporters Without Borders,
right,
just to clarify.
That's beneath. The first time it went back into falling down was with the protests in the north, in which the journalists were beaten up and their cameras broken and their cars broken in 2023, and so it became a life risk at the time for, you know, in the ways in which you measure security. I don't think the evaluation is right. I think there's a greater freedom of expression here and possibilities than probably throughout the region. Part of it is also because we have a political system that doesn't create a strong one-party governance, differing from some other countries. And so I don't think it would be fair to put Kosovo underneath Serbia in freedom of expression.
All right, well, coming back to the election on December the 28th,
Yeah.
is there any reason to believe that the result will be significantly different? I mean, will Vetëvendosje return to being a majority party, or that's unlikely?
Well, the projections that I have seen keep it at first place, with a wider margin, or a wide margin as it had before. I don't think, though, I mean, the important thing to have in mind is that Kosovo needs to have a government by end of February. Otherwise, it does not have a budget to work on. So this is a strong incentive for all the parties to find a quick solution to the government. Of course, the results will dictate a lot of rational choices that the parties make.
But if they couldn't form a coalition in the last year, why should they be able to form a coalition by February, even if it's a question of the budget? Surely people who...
Well, there are several forms of forming the government, and some people in Vetëvendosje might think that they will have the majority numbers to form it in coalition with the minorities. This might be one option. Other options are for different parties to have different results. It will be dependent on results. But whatever the results, the morning after will be there will be a very strong incentive to come to terms with reality.
Do you think that in 6 months' time that Albin Kurti will still be Prime Minister, and he'll be the Prime Minister presiding over a coalition government, and that a new president will be elected? And if so, who would that be?
Well, that's a question for... I'm not sure this would be for this podcast, but I think there are strong possibilities that he will be Prime Minister, and I think there are strong possibilities that parties will come to an agreement about the future president.
Okay. If I was a voter, I would think, has my life, especially my economic situation, improved in the last few years? Has life improved for the majority of people in the last few years?
It depends on the indicators. You know, we've gone through so the indicators that are presented, the macro financial indicators, show growth or show strong economic activity, shows stronger circulation of money in the society. I'm not quite sure this is reflected in the population in terms of dealing with the prices and things like that. I mean, affordability is certainly something that resounds very well in the US, and it's probably something that will dictate politics. I think we will come to a point in which affordability will become part of our own politics in Europe in general. The other two things that two things that have to be taken into consideration is that Kosovo doesn't have a social security system the way Western European countries or European countries have in general. And this is a great minus for the society and for all governments that have been in power, not having been able to create a system by which health and social security all will be integrated in one. So a lot of the costs and problems linked to costs for the ordinary citizen have to do with with health, with people going to pension and earning 190 euros at most of a pension. So these are things that, and with the age being prolonged, with living years being prolonged, these parts of the society feel more vulnerable probably